What happens when a rich, entitled woman slaps a hard-working waitress, only to be slapped back in front of an entire restaurant? What starts as a humiliating encounter turns into a viral sensation, leading to a shocking courtroom showdown. Will justice prevail, or will money and power win? Watch this dramatic story unfold, only on H2 Black Thread. If you believe in standing up for yourself, like, share, and subscribe for more powerful stories. Los Angeles was a city of bright lights, towering ambitions, and stark contrasts between wealth and struggle. In the heart of the city, Le Chateau Lumiere stood as a testament to extravagance and exclusivity. The restaurant wasn't just a place to dine, it was a statement. Celebrities, CEOs, and high-powered individuals frequented this establishment, making it nearly impossible for an ordinary person to step inside unless they were working. Samantha, Sam, Carter knew this well. At 24, she had worked as a waitress at Le Chateau Lumiere for almost a year. The long shifts and demanding customers were exhausting, but for Sam, this was more than just a job. It was a stepping stone to her future. She had dreams of becoming a lawyer, and every tip she earned brought her closer to her goal of attending a prestigious law school. Dressed in a crisp black uniform with a neatly pressed white apron, Sam moved between tables with grace and precision. She had learned how to handle difficult customers, how to keep a polite smile even in the face of rudeness, and how to remain composed when confronted with entitlement. But tonight, her patience would be tested in a way she had never expected. Just as the evening crowd reached its peak, the heavy oak doors of the restaurant swung open, revealing a group of impeccably dressed individuals. At the forefront was Veronica Hastings, a woman whose presence alone could command attention. Veronica was the heiress to one of the largest real estate empires in California. With a lifetime of privilege at her disposal, she had never known what it meant to struggle. Everything in her world was curated to perfection. From the couture gown she wore to the diamond earrings that sparkled under the restaurant's golden chandeliers. Trailing behind her were three other guests, all equally influential in their respective fields. Veronica led them toward a prime table near the center of the restaurant, an area reserved only for VIP clientele. Sam was assigned to serve their table. She had seen Veronica before, though they had never interacted directly. She knew the type, wealthy, entitled, and used to getting whatever she wanted without question. Taking a steadying breath, Sam approached the table with the same professionalism she had mastered over the months. "Good evening, ladies and gentlemen," she greeted warmly. "Welcome to Le Chateau Lumiere. May I start you off with some drinks?" Veronica barely acknowledged her presence. Without looking up from her phone, she muttered, "Chateau Margaux, 2015, and don't take too long." Her companions chuckled at the casual dismissiveness, as if treating staff as invisible was an unspoken rule among the elite. Sam, unfazed, nodded and quickly relayed the order. She knew better than to take these things personally. Returning with the bottle of wine, Sam placed the glasses down with careful precision. As she poured, Veronica continued her conversation with her guests, completely uninterested in the service. It was supposed to be a smooth, uneventful moment, until Sam reached for the last glass. Her sleeve brushed against the water pitcher at the edge of the tray. Before she could react, a few drops of water splashed onto the table, landing on the side of Veronica's designer handbag. Time seemed to slow. For a moment, Sam thought Veronica might not notice. It was such a small amount of water, barely enough to leave a mark. But when Veronica glanced down, her face contorted into something venomous. "You've got to be kidding me," she muttered, setting her wine glass down abruptly. Sam immediately stepped back, hands raised slightly. "I'm so sorry, ma'am. It was an accident. Veronica pushed her chair back with an abrupt scrape against the floor, standing so suddenly that her napkin fluttered to the ground. "Do you even know how much this bag costs?" she demanded, her voice slicing through the once lively atmosphere. The surrounding tables fell silent as heads turned toward the commotion. Sam swallowed hard. I understand, ma'am. I truly apologize. If there's anything I can do." Veronica let out a bitter laugh, turning to her companions as if Sam had just told a joke. "This girl thinks she can fix it," she sneered. "Honey, this bag is worth more than your entire life savings. You couldn't afford it in a lifetime." The words stung, but Sam forced herself to remain composed. She had dealt with rude customers before, but this was different. This wasn't just about spilled water. This was about power. Veronica was reveling in the humiliation, taking pleasure in belittling someone she saw as beneath her. At a nearby table, Ethan Reynolds, a corporate lawyer in his early 30s, had been watching the interaction unfold. He had seen entitled customers before, but something about the way Veronica treated Sam made his stomach turn. There was a cruelty in it, an unnecessary display of dominance. Ethan set down his fork, his sharp eyes narrowing. He was no stranger to injustice, but seeing it unfold right in front of him made it impossible to ignore. Across the restaurant, Maya Turner, a social media influencer with millions of followers, had also taken notice. She wasn't one to seek out drama, but the way Veronica spoke to Sam was sickening. Quietly, she lifted her phone and began recording. "People need to see this," she murmured to herself. Sam knew she had to de-escalate the situation, but Veronica wasn't done. "People like you should know their place," Veronica continued, her voice dripping with condescension. "You're here to serve, not to ruin people's belongings. Maybe if you were actually competent at your job, you wouldn't be stuck waiting tables for the rest of your life." Sam clenched her fists at her sides, her nails digging into her palms. The words were meant to break her, to strip away her dignity in front of a room full of strangers. But Sam wasn't weak. She had fought too hard, sacrificed too much, to let someone like Veronica Hastings decide her worth. Taking a deep breath, she steadied herself. "I apologize again, ma'am," she said, her voice calm but firm. "If there's anything I can do to make up for the inconvenience, please let me know." Veronica scoffed, rolling her eyes. "You've done enough. Just stay out of my sight." Sam nodded and turned away, her back straight and her pride intact. She wouldn't let Veronica win. But deep down, something inside her had changed. She had spent her whole life staying quiet, letting things slide to avoid conflict. But tonight, as she walked away, she knew this wasn't over, not by a long shot. The restaurant was silent. The kind of silence that only happens when something completely unexpected shatters the normal rhythm of the evening. Sam could feel her heart pounding in her chest. The room around her, the golden chandeliers, the clinking of glasses, the soft murmur of conversations, blurred for a moment as all her focus narrowed on the woman standing before her. Veronica Hastings, the rich, entitled woman who had just humiliated her in front of the entire restaurant. The woman who had just slapped her. The sting on Sam's cheek burned hot, radiating through her entire body. She could still hear the sharp crack of Veronica's palm against her skin, a sound that had frozen everyone in the room. For a split second, Sam didn't move. Not because she was afraid, but because she was in disbelief. Did that just happen? She had spent her entire life working hard, keeping her head down and enduring. She had been told to stay professional no matter what, to let it go when customers were rude, to smile through the insults. But this was different. This wasn't just about words or attitude. Veronica had put her hands on her. And suddenly, something inside Sam snapped. Her breath steadied, her hands clenched into fists at her sides. She didn't shake. She didn't falter. And without a second thought, Sam lifted her hand and slapped Veronica across the face. The sound of the impact was deafening in the silence of the restaurant. Veronica staggered back, eyes wide with shock, one manicured hand flying to her cheek as if she couldn't believe what had just happened. The once self-assured, smug expression she had worn moments ago was completely gone. The entire restaurant gasped in unison. Some diners nearly dropped their glasses. Others exchanged stunned glances, whispering to one another in disbelief. Veronica's mouth opened and closed as she tried to form words, but nothing came out. Meanwhile, Sam stood tall, her breathing deep but controlled. She didn't look down. She didn't apologize. Instead, she met Veronica's furious, humiliated gaze and said calmly but firmly, "No one gets to treat me this way. Not you, not anyone." Her voice wasn't loud, but it carried. Every person in that room heard her, and for the first time the power in the room shifted. Veronica had been the one with the money, the power, the influence, but in that moment it was Sam who held control. Maya Turner, the influencer who had already been recording, captured everything. The slap, the stunned silence, Sam's powerful words. Her hands trembled with excitement as she quickly uploaded the video to Twitter with the caption, "Breaking. A rich businesswoman slaps a waitress over a tiny accident, then gets what she deserves." Justice for Sam. Within seconds, the post began racking up views and comments. At another table, Ethan Reynolds, the lawyer who had been watching everything unfold, nodded slightly to himself. Good, he thought. Finally, someone stood up to people like her. Not everyone in the restaurant was supportive. A few of Veronica's friends gasped in outrage, one even muttering, "She's going to regret that." But others were impressed. A well-dressed older woman whispered, "About time someone put her in her place." A couple sitting near the bar exchanged glances before murmuring, "She had that coming." Even the restaurant staff, Sam's co-workers, stared in quiet admiration. Because they all knew. They all knew how people like Veronica treated people like them. They had all suffered through rude comments, degrading words, and entitlement, but none of them had ever fought back. Until now. Veronica shook with rage. Her face was red, not just from the slap, but from the sheer humiliation of being put in her place. You, she sputtered, her voice trembling with fury. "How dare you touch me?" Sam didn't flinch. Veronica's hands curled into fists as if she wanted to retaliate, but she hesitated. Because for the first time in her entire life, she wasn't sure if she would win. She glanced around the restaurant and saw too many eyes watching, too many phones recording. Her arrogance wavered. She had expected outrage on her behalf. She had expected the restaurant manager to rush in and fire Sam on the spot. Instead, she saw people waiting to see what she would do next, and she realized something: she wasn't the victim. She was the villain. Meanwhile, back on Twitter, Maya's video was blowing up. Within minutes, the comments started rolling in. Finally. Entitled people like her think they can do whatever they want. She slapped her first. What did she expect? That the waitress would just take it? Sam is my hero. She deserves a raise. The hashtag Justice for Sam started trending, and as more people shared the video, the backlash against Veronica began. Veronica could feel it. The tide was turning against her. She took a deep breath, forcing herself to stay composed. But she couldn't hide the tremor of anger in her voice as she spat. "You are going to pay for this." Sam met her gaze without fear. "Go ahead," she said simply. Veronica's jaw clenched. "I will ruin you." She grabbed her purse, spun on her heels, and stormed out of the restaurant, her friends scrambling to follow. But Sam didn't move. She stood tall, her head held high, her cheek still burning from the slap, but her dignity completely intact. And for the first time in her life, she didn't feel small. She felt powerful. The moment Maya uploaded the video, the internet took over. The video of Veronica Hastings slapping Sam and then getting slapped back spread like wildfire. Within minutes, the tweet had thousands of retweets. Within an hour, it had hit 1 million views. By the time the night was over, it had crossed 5 million, and it wasn't stopping. On Twitter, the hashtag Justice for Sam began trending worldwide. Waitress gets slapped for an accident, but the rich lady can't handle getting slapped back. The audacity. Veronica Hastings needs to be blacklisted. This is disgusting behavior. Sam is the hero we didn't know we needed. She stood up for every service worker out there. TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube were no different. The video had been reposted thousands of times, dissected frame by frame. Some creators even made dramatic reenactments, emphasizing Veronica's arrogance and Sam's powerful response. News outlets quickly picked up the story. Several morning shows debated the event, some hosts siding with Sam, while others questioned whether retaliation was appropriate. But one thing was clear: public sympathy was overwhelmingly with Sam. Even celebrities chimed in. A list actress Lena Carter tweeted, "No amount of money makes it okay to slap someone over a spilled drink." Justice for Sam, athlete Derek Lawson posted on Instagram, "I'd have done the same thing. Sam deserves a damn promotion." The internet was united, and it was against Veronica Hastings. While the world watched the chaos unfold, Ethan Reynolds was making a decision. Sitting in his apartment, he refreshed the news article on his laptop. The video was everywhere. He had been there when it happened. He had seen the humiliation in Sam's eyes. And now he was watching Veronica Hastings try to destroy her. Ethan had seen people like Veronica before, rich, entitled individuals who believed their money made them untouchable. But something about this case felt personal. He reached for his phone and found the restaurant's number. After a brief conversation with the manager, he was able to get in touch with Sam. The call was short. "Sam," Ethan said firmly, "I'm a lawyer, and I think you're going to need one." Sam hesitated. I don't know. I don't even have the money to." "Don't worry about that," Ethan cut in. "I'm offering to represent you pro bono. Veronica Hastings is going to come after you with everything she has. But I promise you she won't win." There was silence on the other end, then a slow exhale. "Okay," Sam finally said. "I don't know what's going to happen, but I don't want to go through this alone." "You won't," Ethan assured her. "I've got your back." While Sam was still processing everything, Veronica was plotting. She had spent years building her image, carefully curating her social circles, ensuring she was always seen as untouchable. Now, in less than 24 hours, she had become a villain. Her company was being flooded with angry emails. Sponsors were reconsidering partnerships. Stockholders were furious about the bad press. Even some of her so-called friends had started distancing themselves from her. She clenched her phone so hard her knuckles turned white. "This isn't happening," she hissed. "I will not be taken down by some nobody waitress." Her assistant, Claire, stood nervously beside her. "Miss Hastings, maybe it would be best to release an apology." "Apologize?" Veronica snapped, her voice venomous. "To who? Some low-class girl who doesn't know her place." Claire hesitated, then quietly excused herself from the room. She knew better than to argue with Veronica when she was in this state. Veronica took a deep breath, trying to think. If the public thought she was the villain, she would rewrite the story. She picked up her phone and dialed her lawyer. "File a lawsuit," she ordered. Her lawyer sighed. "For what exactly, Veronica?" "Assault," she spat, "and defamation. She hit me in public, and now the entire world is slandering my name. I want her destroyed." "You do realize there's a video of you hitting her first, right?" Then spin it, Veronica snapped. Make it look like I was defending myself. Tell them she provoked me. Find every dirt you can on her, where she went to school, if she's ever had a problem at work, anything we can use. Her lawyer hesitated. Even for him, this was a stretch. But Veronica Hastings paid well, so he sighed. All right, I'll prepare the paperwork. And just like that, Veronica had officially declared war. The next morning, Sam woke up to a legal notice, a lawsuit. She stared at the paper in disbelief. She's actually suing me. Ethan, who had already anticipated this, wasn't surprised. This is what people like Veronica do, he told her over coffee. They try to bury people under lawsuits. They want to scare you into submission. But trust me, Sam, you have nothing to worry about. Sam still felt nervous. Are you sure? She has the money, the lawyers, she's powerful. Ethan smirked. And she's about to learn that power doesn't mean much when the law isn't on your side. How can you be so sure? Ethan's smirk widened. Because of the judge assigned to the case, Sam frowned. And who is that? Ethan leaned back in his chair, arms crossed. Judge Jonathan Reynolds, my father. Sam's eyes widened. Your father is the judge, Ethan nodded. And if there's one thing you should know about my dad, it's that he doesn't care about money, power, or reputation. He only cares about justice. And I guarantee you, when he sees what actually happened, Veronica Hastings is going to regret ever filing this lawsuit. For the first time since this nightmare began, Sam felt something new: hope. The day of the trial had arrived, and Veronica Hastings walked into the courthouse with all the confidence of a woman who had never faced consequences in her life. Dressed in an elegant black designer suit, her heels clicked sharply against the polished marble floors. She strode through the entrance like she owned the building, flanked by two of the most expensive attorneys in Los Angeles. Her expression was cold, calculating. She fully expected to leave this courtroom victorious. After all, Veronica always won. She had spent days crafting her narrative. According to her legal team, she was the real victim, a respected businesswoman who had been violently assaulted by an unstable, aggressive waitress. The lawsuit was airtight, she believed. With her money and influence, there was no way she could lose. What Veronica didn't know was that this time, she wasn't in control. This time, the law was against her, and so was the truth. Inside the courtroom, the atmosphere was tense. The media had gathered outside, the case now a public spectacle. Veronica's name had already been dragged through the mud online, and she was determined to use this trial to restore her reputation. Across the room, Sam sat next to Ethan Reynolds, her attorney. Unlike Veronica, she wasn't wearing designer clothes. She wasn't flanked by an army of legal advisors, but she had something far more powerful: evidence, witnesses, and the truth. Judge Jonathan Reynolds, Ethan's father, entered the courtroom. He was a man known for his strict fairness and zero tolerance for manipulation. His sharp eyes scanned the room, pausing briefly on Veronica before shifting to Sam. Then, he addressed the court. This trial will determine the validity of the claims filed by Miss Veronica Hastings against Miss Samantha Carter, he said, his voice steady and authoritative. Let the proceedings begin. Veronica's lead attorney rose first. Your Honor, my client has suffered severe emotional distress from the attack she endured at the hands of Miss Carter, he began smoothly. Not only did she experience physical harm, but she has also been subjected to relentless online harassment due to the false narrative being spread against her. My client seeks justice. Judge Reynolds nodded, expression unreadable. We will review the facts. He turned to Ethan. Mr. Reynolds, you may present your case. Ethan stood confidently. With pleasure, Your Honor. Ethan walked toward the center of the courtroom. What Miss Hastings and her attorneys have failed to mention, he said, voice clear and unwavering, is that there is irrefutable video evidence of the incident. He held up a tablet and gestured toward the screen set up in the courtroom. With the court's permission, I'd like to play the footage that has been widely circulated on social media. Judge Reynolds nodded. Proceed. The moment the video began, Veronica stiffened. She hadn't thought this far ahead. She had convinced herself that her version of the story was reality. But now, she was being confronted with the truth. On the screen, the footage clearly showed Veronica slapping Sam first. The room fell silent as the sound of the impact echoed through the speakers. Then, the video continued, Sam retaliating, standing up for herself, and declaring that no one had the right to treat her that way. When the clip ended, Ethan turned back to the judge. Your Honor, this evidence directly contradicts Miss Hastings' claim that she was the victim. In reality, she was the aggressor. Furthermore, the footage has been viewed over 50 million times worldwide, making it impossible for my client to have fabricated any false narrative. The courtroom buzzed with whispers. Even Veronica's attorneys looked uneasy, but Ethan wasn't done. We also have multiple eyewitness accounts that support the truth, Ethan continued. I'd like to call our first witness, Maya Turner. Maya, the influencer who had recorded the video, stepped up to the witness stand. She adjusted the microphone before speaking, her voice firm. I was there that night. I saw everything. Veronica Hastings humiliated Sam, insulted her, and then she hit her. That's why I started recording. She shot a glance at Veronica, her expression unwavering. I posted the video because the world needed to see how people like her treat people like Sam. Veronica glared daggers at her, but it was useless. The damage was done. Next, the restaurant owner took the stand. He confirmed that Sam had never had any complaints against her, that she was one of his most professional and hardworking employees. She didn't deserve what happened to her, he said. And if you ask me, I think Miss Hastings is just angry she got called out. Laughter rippled through the room. Even Judge Reynolds looked slightly amused before quickly composing himself. When it was time for Judge Reynolds to speak, Veronica sat stiffly, her nails digging into her palm. This wasn't how things were supposed to go. She had expected Sam to cower. She had expected the judge to be intimidated by her wealth. Instead, she was being exposed. Judge Reynolds adjusted his glasses and leveled a firm gaze at Veronica. Miss Hastings, he began, your claims are riddled with inconsistencies. The evidence presented here today clearly proves that you instigated the physical altercation. Veronica's jaw clenched. Furthermore, the judge continued, his tone growing sharper, you have actively spread false information about Miss Carter, resulting in public harassment against her. This court does not tolerate such dishonesty. Then, he delivered his verdict. Sam Carter is declared innocent. Veronica Hastings loses the lawsuit. Veronica is ordered to pay a large sum in damages for defamation and assault. A wave of relief washed over Sam. Meanwhile, Veronica sat frozen. She had lost. But the worst part, it wasn't just about the money, it was about her reputation. As soon as the trial ended, the news spread like wildfire. Veronica Hastings loses big time. The court rules in Sam Carter's favor. Justice for Sam. Veronica has officially been canceled. Investors are pulling out of her company. The fallout was immediate. Veronica's business took a massive hit. Several investors withdrew their support. Her company's stock plummeted. Even her most loyal socialite friends distanced themselves. She had gone from an untouchable elite to a disgraced outcast, and for the first time in her life, money couldn't fix it. As Sam walked out of the courtroom, she turned to Ethan with a grateful smile. Thank you, she said, her voice filled with emotion. Ethan grinned. You fought for yourself, Sam. I just made sure the world saw the truth. For the first time in weeks, Sam felt free. Justice had been served, and now she could finally move forward. The days following the trial were a nightmare for Veronica Hastings. She had expected to walk away victorious, to restore her name and status with a single court ruling. Instead, she had walked out of the courthouse as a public disgrace. The fallout was swift and brutal. Headlines were relentless. Veronica Hastings exposed, loses lawsuit after assaulting waitress. From wealth to worthless, Hastings' reputation in shambles. Stockholders pull out. Hastings' business faces collapse. The very people who once flocked to her side now avoided her. Within a week, her company's board held an emergency meeting, and although they didn't officially remove her, they distanced themselves from her entirely. Investors withdrew their support, not wanting to be associated with her name. Several of her high-profile friends, the same ones who had laughed with her at Le Chateau Lumiere, stopped responding to her calls, and on social media, her Instagram comments were flooded with hate. "You're done. Get used to it. How does it feel to lose everything over your own arrogance? Maybe if you had learned to respect people, you wouldn't be in this mess." For the first time in her life, Veronica Hastings was powerless. Desperate to claw her way back into elite circles, Veronica attended an exclusive high society event at the invitation of a former acquaintance. She walked in, her head held high, wearing her most expensive gown. She ignored the whispers, pretending as if nothing had changed. But people noticed. They saw the way others subtly turned away from her. They saw how her usual circle had shrunken, how even the bartenders and servers treated her with a thinly veiled indifference. Then came the moment she would never forget. As she made her way to the VIP lounge, she was stopped by Victoria Morgan. Victoria Morgan was a billionaire mogul, one of the most powerful women in the city. She had built her empire from the ground up and was known for being merciless. She looked Veronica up and down, her expression unreadable. "You really have the audacity to show up here," Victoria said, her voice cool and cutting. Veronica forced a smile. "Victoria, it's been a while." Victoria held up a hand. "You think you can just come back like nothing happened," she said, her tone sharp enough to cut steel. "People like you are not welcome here." The words landed like a slap. Veronica opened her mouth to argue, to defend herself, but nothing came out. There was nothing to say. Victoria didn't give her another glance. She turned on her heel and walked away, leaving Veronica standing there, humiliated, alone. For the first time in her life, Veronica Hastings had been publicly rejected, and she had no one to blame but herself. While Veronica's world crumbled, Sam's life was heading in the opposite direction. The public outpouring of support she received after the trial was overwhelming. Thousands of people reached out, some offering job opportunities, others sending words of encouragement. But the biggest surprise came in the form of a letter. One afternoon, while Sam was at home, she checked her mail and saw a crisp white envelope with an embossed golden seal. Her heart pounded as she opened it. It was from a prestigious law school. As she unfolded the letter, she scanned the words, her hands trembling. "Dear Miss Carter, we are pleased to inform you that, in recognition of your resilience, integrity, and outstanding potential, you have been awarded a full scholarship to our university's law program. We believe your strength in standing up for justice aligns with our core values, and we would be honored to have you join us. Congratulations on this well-deserved achievement." Sincerely, the admissions committee. Sam stared at the words, rereading them again and again. A full scholarship. She felt her eyes well up with tears of disbelief. All her years of hard work, the struggle, the humiliation she had endured, the fight for her dignity. It had all led her to this moment. She had once feared that the lawsuit would ruin her life. Instead, it had changed her life for the better. She had always dreamed of becoming a lawyer. But now she knew exactly what kind of lawyer she wanted to be. She wanted to fight for people like her, for the people who had been stepped on, humiliated, and silenced, for those who had been told to endure, to let it go, to stay quiet. She would make sure no one like Veronica Hastings would ever get away with treating someone like her unfairly again. On the day of her first law class, Sam stood outside the university, taking a deep breath. She thought about everything it had taken to get here. She thought about the night at Le Chateau Lumiere, about the humiliation, about the slap. She thought about how in that moment she could have chosen to stay silent, but she hadn't. She had fought back, not just with her hand but with her voice, her dignity, and her refusal to back down. And now she wasn't just a waitress fighting to be respected. She was Samantha Carter, future attorney. She squared her shoulders, lifted her chin, and walked into her new life. Sam's journey wasn't just about winning a lawsuit. It was about proving that everyone deserves respect, regardless of their background. Veronica thought she was untouchable, but her arrogance destroyed her. Justice prevailed. And now Sam was ready to fight for others, because no one should ever be told to stay quiet again.